don't have a...
Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Indy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
You sound fine. You sound good. Yeah, the background noise is okay.
Another one! Utah! He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Works down by Burke. Passes into Cody. Puts it up. Scores!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome into Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from actually the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios today. Today is the Dog Shack Dave outing. You can see in the background there that there's a plaque that proudly hung at hole number 10 at Eagle Point for quite some time. Dave Pratt, big, gigantic IU fan, passed away of COVID last year. So today's the first annual Memorial Dog Shack Dave Dog Pratt Open at Eagle Point. So we're here participating in that and looking forward to that. Dustin, how are you, sir? Welcome aboard, my friend.
I'm doing all right, Jim. I'm a little jealous that you get a nice day out there to play golf. So it's nothing but pouring down rain here in Georgia. So enjoy the day, man.
So was it a rainy night in Georgia?
Yes, it was. It was.
Chalk one up for me. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's looks a little froggy out there right now, to be honest with you, but it's okay. Should be a big event. I hope they're chirping later is what I hope. I'll tell you straight up, I've got a team in this. I've sponsored a team that I'm playing in, and I did not come to just participate. I have loaded this team for bear, baby. Brent Hutton, a good friend. I used to work for Learfield, but Craig Smith, former pro here at Eagle Point, and then Ryan Smith, who's a former pitcher for Butler, but works in PT at Indiana University, is also playing. Those last two Smith brothers or Smith guys, not related, but they both hit the ball lights out. So I was with Ryan Smith one day, and he hit one 340 yards. So I'm like going, yeah, I need you on my team on his scramble coming up. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Was able to play, try to get a little practice in yesterday. Played with Kit Klingelhofer, the former SID for Indiana, and Eric Sewer, the play-by-play man for Indiana basketball. So that was a fun day out there yesterday. Had a good time. So looking forward to getting out and raising some money for in the name of Dog Shack Dave Pratt. So looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's a great cause, and it's a good thing to be doing, and have a little fun while you're doing it. And if you win, I mean, that's just a cherry on top.
Absolutely, and I'm going for it, baby. Trust me. I did not come here just to participate, but that's why I brought the guys that can do it, because it's not me. How's everything going in your world? College football off and running, man. Big game this week, of course. Not only Indiana, Cincinnati. There's a lot of big games this week, but of course in Bloomington, the number 8 Bearcats come to town. And Dustin, this is a game that should be interesting in a number of ways, because Indiana needs to get back to playing football that looks like they're winning, that they're capable of competing in the Big Ten East. They have not played that yet. Cincinnati, on the other hand, they need this win because they've heard nothing about not playing anyone, not playing a good enough schedule, not doing enough. Well, you go into on the road to a Big Ten opponent that is considered a challenger in the Big Ten East. That's exactly what they want. So this is a game that is needed to be won by both squads in a big-time way.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look first at the Cincinnati side of it, this is a chance for a group of 5 team to potentially make a college football playoff run, because they have Indiana and I believe they have Notre Dame on the schedule. And then you look at the AAC, there's going to be some tough challenges that they have there. But what a way for them to kind of get the momentum rolling, not only to get a win over a good Indiana team, but to do so on the road. When you're already a top 10 squad, it's going to look impressive to the selection committee further down the road. On the Indiana side, to me, you kind of washed away what happened in Iowa City. I mean, it doesn't go off the resume, but at the same time, I was impressed with how Indiana responded. I was curious to see how they might react when you got your bell rung, right? They were so high expectations, and to not even really be competitive in that game in Iowa City, I was curious to see if there was a hangover effect, if Indiana came out and looked lethargic, if they didn't perform well. That wasn't the case against Idaho. They had some issues that they still continue to need to work on, continue to need to clean up. But at the same time, they came out and they got a 21-point lead pretty quickly, took care of business, did what they needed to do. And if you get a win over a top 10 team in Cincinnati, you might be back in the top 25. All of a sudden, you are now considered to be a competitor in the Big Ten East again. Ohio State has had some issues, obviously, with their loss to Oregon. So this is a huge weekend. To me, this game is more important even than the Iowa game a few weeks ago, because this is the difference between getting a winning record going and having a chance to be a one-loss team heading into that Big Penn State game. And if you lose it, you're 1-2, and you're kind of scratching your head, and you wonder if this thing can get off the rails. And they're going to have fan support. They had a great turnout from the students and from the fans at Idaho. The game sold out this weekend. I expect a great crowd. So that'll give them a little bit of an extra energy, a little bit of an extra boost. But, yeah, huge game this weekend in Bloomington, one of the biggest ones we've seen in a while.
You know, I hate to say it, but this is probably I don't want to say the biggest home game Indiana's had in 40 years. It's the biggest non-conference game they've had in 40 years. But it's also one of the biggest games because it is a game that will propel them in a way. It's not conference game, so it doesn't have that kind of weight. But the fact of the things that you mentioned, the sold-out crowd, that if they win in front of that sold-out crowd, they secure their affections going forth. If they lose, then they see them as a team that can't compete with the big boys, and I think you're going to lose those fringe participants. That's who Indiana needs. Indiana needs those fringe ticket holders that aren't coming every week, that aren't making that drive. And that's what you can get right here. And that's the difference in elevating. It's one of the things in elevating your program is you got to have solid, consistent fan support.
And the other part of this, too, is if you don't win this game, I fear that the national perception is going to be Indiana was a one-hit wonder. This was a team that had a really good season in a year that was, affected by a pandemic. How good are they really? How far is Tom Allen really taking this program? And that's not certainly something that I believe, but I think that when you turn on ESPN's College Game Day or when you turn on Fox's Big Noon Kickoff, that's definitely going to be a conversation moving forward because you had two of your biggest games, and if you lose both of them and one of them is in a blowout fashion, that Iowa game, then people are going to seriously start to wonder how good you were last season and whether or not this Indiana program is really on the rise or whether it just took advantage of a unique circumstance in 2020. So it's hugely important. They have to be competitive. As you mentioned, if you don't win this game and even worse, if you don't even look competitive, if it looks like it did in that Iowa game, then you're going to start to lose a lot of fans and hopes of other sellouts are going to be by the wayside, and people are going to start looking towards Mike Woodson and the start of the college basketball season. So this is a huge game, huge non-conference game. Again, the great thing about Indiana, if you want to look at this on the positive side, is that your loss to Iowa that's a non-division opponent, right? So you still control your own destiny in terms of the Big Ten and trying to get to Indianapolis because you still have all your Big Ten East opponents ahead. So they do control their own destiny, but I think in order for them to kind of generate that momentum, get back on track and say, you know what, we're not a one-hit wonder. We are here to stay and kind of create that momentum heading into games against Penn State, against Michigan State, against Ohio State, a very front-loaded schedule. They have to get a win on Saturday. Yeah,
I agree, and looking forward to it. I think that, as you said, I don't think that this Indiana team is good. They are defensively; they're very good. There's no question about that to me. Offensively, I think that they're good, but I had a question or a topic that came up last night. I forget who I was talking with, but how far does Tom Allen go with Michael Penix? Where's that line that says, man, we've got to make a change here? Because he is the starting quarterback, and there's no quarterback controversy at this moment other than the one we're creating. And I'm not trying to create that. It's just It is what it is. He's not been productive, and he wasn't productive last week against a low-level team, but they weren't asked a lot of because they didn't have the ball a lot. Now, on the other hand, that is something that was key to Murray State being tied with Cincinnati 7-7 at the halftime last week. Murray State, because they kept the ball out of Cincinnati's hands. They ran just a controlled offense. We haven't seen Indiana have the ability to do that a lot yet. The running game has looked pretty good, but it's that passing game that is not complemented quite enough to sustain those drives. And not that they haven't had any, they did, but they need sustained drives against Cincinnati and let that defense do what they do. That's how Indiana is going to win this game. The offense has to stay on the field.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the running game looked better, but you still have to look at, they only averaged 3.5 yards per carry against an Idaho team. And to me, that's concerning because you should be averaging about 4.5 to 5 yards per carry against that kind of defense. So I do have some concerns in terms of the run game. But the bigger issue to me is I don't even put so much of this on Michael Penix as I do the offensive play calling. He cannot be asked to throw the ball 15, 20 yards down the field every single time and hope that that's going to be – I mean, the game's going to look like it did against Iowa if that's the offensive game plan. He can't just, stand back there and try to chuck it downfield 15, 20 yards and pick up that kind of yardage. They're going to have to do a little bit of the dink and dunk. They're going to have to establish the run game. They're going to have to move him out of the pocket. As much as we've talked about he can't be running, that has to be some sort of a threat to pick up at least 3 or 4 yards to keep the defense honest. So there are a lot of concerns. I want to see a little bit more. I'm not ready to pull the plug on Michael Penix yet or talk about the quarterback controversy. I think it falls more on Nick Sheridan to put Michael Penix in a better situation.
Yeah, but how? When you're not having – part of that is you've got to have good offensive line play. That's been another issue for Indiana. And there's no excuse for that one because this is a veteran line. This is a 2-deep line. This is the line that had I think there's one transfer. They made a move at center last week that seemed to show dividends with Zach Carpenter. But this is a veteran line. They made some changes, but you can't have problems on the line, and I don't understand how they are having problems with the offensive line this deep already. You had all of spring, you had all of fall camp, and with these veterans, and you've got to shore up some issues. I don't. That's a little befuddling to me, but that's issue number one because we've seen Stephen Carr. He's got the talent. He's got burst ability. He got out, got some good runs. That was something Stevie Scott did not have the ability to do. I never saw Stevie Scott make a 26-yard run. I think I saw 2 of those last Saturday from Stephen Carr. So he has that ability. He's got the ability to be the good complement running game. They've got to get these other passes going. They haven't thrown deep. They haven't thrown deep hardly at all this year. Now, part of that's on the line, but the receiving corps doesn't look as in sync this year as they were last year. Ty Freifogel, of course, an All-American who is one of the best in the country, hasn't been much of a factor at all.
Yeah, I think what you're seeing is Indiana's offensive line is probably more recruited to in terms of finesse because when you look at what Kalen DeBoer did offensively, and obviously he wasn't there long enough to recruit that kind of offensive line, but they got the ball out of the hands of the quarterback quickly. They were trying to make quick plays on bubble screens and short passes and things like that. And so they didn't have a power offensive line. And now it seems to me like they're trying to establish some sort of power run game without that kind of offensive line. So it's experienced and it's deep, but I don't know if it's built to be a run first type of offensive line. And I think that's the big concern. So
we got to take a quick break.
Rushing game. Yeah.
Let's take a quick break. Matt Taylor's joining us next. We'll be back with more Indiana Sports Beat from the golf club at Eagle Point, literally studios. Back right after this with Matt Taylor from the Colts.
We'll be right back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
Is my mic sound okay, John?
Yeah, you sound fine. And Matt only had until 9:30 today. Can you hear me, Matt?
I'm here.
Okay, sweet.
He's here. I was there last week, Matt.
Oh, you went to the game?
Do you believe that was my first Colts game?
Like ever?
Believe that. Wow.
Ever.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I'm
really surprised by that.
Well, basketball is I've just always been thinking ahead and work and not thinking far enough ahead. And I'm like, I keep thinking I got to reach out and get credentials. And I just keep forgetting. I'm just staying so busy. But fortunately, I was in the quarterback suite with a guy last week. So that was not bad.
That was not bad.
But I'll be honest with you. Guy named Mike Ross.
Is he a big?
But I'll be honest with you. Yeah. The reason I love and don't love watching games from areas like that. I love it because of all the stuff that goes with it, but I don't because I can't focus on a game in an area like that. I mean, if I'm going to watch a game, I just got to be down in a seat or in the press box. One of the two. I can't focus with all that stuff. There's too much stuff around you in those nice environments.
Yeah, I mean, people. I call that like the wedding reception ball game. You know, you're making small talk with people that you don't know, and you're having to network and glad hand, and I'm right there with you, pal.
It's exactly what it is, and I'm like, it's like, man, I cannot watch this game.
Perfect description, right
Jim,
there.
where are you live from today? Did you say earlier?
The golf club at Eagle Point. The golf club at Eagle Point.
Okay.
This is the old. Do you remember that when you played out here? Right there, I'm showing you the picture, Matt.
Oh,
Dave's
yeah,
Dog Shack. Yeah, it's sat on right here. It's not mine. I'm here at Eagle Point, but today is the golf scramble. He passed last year from COVID, so today is the first annual Dog Shack Dave scramble.
Where is that physically though? At Eagle Point.
Eagle Point. Oh, I'm right behind the pro shop, literally through the door.
Oh, okay.
If I turn it, there's the pro shop.
Yeah.
If I had a little more juice, I could just walk around. I'm afraid if I unplug. Hey, what's our first opening, John? Open segment.
The next one.
9:40.
Yeah. Hey, sorry, Matt. We kind of got into break a little late, so your time might be cut a little short. I know you got to get out of the race.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be back in 45 seconds.
Hey, you say it. I'm gonna have you come in and say it.
I've got to work, Jim.
Oh, whatever.
I'm radio.
Well, I have a face for radio and a voice for newspapers and the intelligence for yearbook.
An intelligence for yearbook. My gosh.
This covers the whole line right there, baby.
And help me buy my dream home. And I know you'll continue to be there for whatever my future holds. Because you're my BFF, banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking. And all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
Stuck.
This segment is brought to you by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Now back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the golf club at Eagle Point Studios. Literally coming from the golf club at Eagle Point this morning as we are here for the Dog Shack Dave, first annual Dog Shack Dave golf outing. Dave Pratt, a beloved figure here, not only here, but around Bloomington. Passed, unfortunately, last year to COVID. And so we're having a golf scramble in his honor, raise money for charity. Not only that, here at Eagle Point, the Pro Brian says they will beat or match anyone's price on golf equipment, clubs, putters, whatever you got, clothes. So there you go. If you're looking to make some golf purchases, you might want to stop there first. But welcome back. Matt Taylor from the Colts is with us. Matt, how are you doing, brother?
I'm good. How are you guys doing today?
I cannot complain. Dustin Schutte from the Fresh Saturday Tradition as well, as always, with us as well. I was up at the game Sunday, and Carson Wentz didn't look bad. He didn't have a lot of help, it looked like, unfortunately. But and Seattle looked like they were in mid-season mode already. So it did not go well for the Colts, but it wasn't horrible, I guess you'd say. It could have been looked more. It didn't look like Indiana looked at Iowa. I'll tell you that. It was a little similar there, but not quite. The quarterback looked a lot better for Indianapolis than it did for Indiana last week.
Sure. I mean, I think you left the game feeling confident in his abilities going forward, and being that it was his first game in a new setting and a new environment after missing all of that time in training camp in the preseason. For him to play like that, I think you're encouraged, and obviously you know going forward that there's a high ceiling or a lot of room to grow. And I think the biggest concern from a team standpoint or an offensive standpoint after one game is where are the chunk plays and where are they going to come from, and how are they going to get those? Because last week the longest gain in the passing game for the Colts was only 24 yards. And so I think a lot of things went into that. I think the offensive line had trouble holding up. I think defensively, the way Seattle played coverage-wise took a lot of shots away. Colts had some things dialed up, but based on coverages from Seattle, it made it hard to push the ball down the field. And you just have to get chunk plays in this league. As we all know, it's hard to sustain 11, 12, 13 play drives and get into the end zone, especially when you're not going to convert inside the red area like the Colts did not in week number 1. You're going to have to move the ball through the air and get, 25, 30 yards at a time just to alleviate some of the pressure that you have on offense. So those are my big takeaways through a game. Again, I think big plays on both sides of the ball were kind of the story of the game. When you look at explosive plays, and those are defined as passes over 20, runs over 10. The Colts only had 2. Seattle had 8. You just can't win with that kind of discrepancy in the big play category. And you had a takeaway on defense, but it just wasn't enough as the Colts kind of squandered opportunities, got inside the red zone but couldn't convert. They had a couple of fourth down snafus that really hurt him in that game. So 28-16 was the final score, but really the game wasn't even that close. And Seattle's a really good football team. Obviously, last year they were 12-4. They won the NFC West, and so it's a really good barometer right out of the gate. And that barometer tells us that the Colts still have some work to do. And I think kind of a blessing in disguise right out of the chute here in week 2, the Colts are playing a really, really good football team. The Rams maybe just as good as the Seahawks. It's going to be a really competitive division out west. And so I think it's a little bit of a blessing in disguise that, you have a stinker like you did in week 1. You come right back at home, try to put your best foot forward against a really good football team in week 2 when you have a lot of expectations, and now you have to go back and prove it. And your mind is sharpened immediately because it has to be to beat the Rams.
Matt, it doesn't matter whether it's high school, college, or pro. After week 1 tends to be overreaction week, right? We look at the stats or we look at the game and make assumptions on what we're going to see the rest of the season. But my question to you comes from Jonathan Taylor had 23 touches. He was the leading receiver. From what you saw, and you talked about the lack of explosive plays, is that by an offensive design to get him more involved in the passing attack? Was that out of desperation because nobody could get open downfield, or was that kind of a mixture of both?
I think it's a mixture of both, and you're right. Colts running backs had 12 combined catches in the game, and that's up from where it usually is, and that just speaks to nothing was open down the field. The Colts tried to push the ball, but they just could not get anything down the field to guys like Michael Pittman or Paris Campbell. Campbell had the one. That was the 24-yard gainer. That was the longest play of the day for the Colts. But outside of that, it was just really hard, and therefore Carson Wentz had to check the ball down to Nyheim Hines and Jonathan Taylor. And you're right, Taylor was the Colts' leading receiver. I'm going to fair to guess that if Jonathan Taylor is the Colts' leading receiver here on out in a game, that the Colts probably aren't going to win that football game. So it's about winning the matchups outside. It's about pushing the ball outside the numbers too, because, guys, this is football 101, right? When you play within the numbers, you're just inviting another player to come in the box that you have to contend with. And inevitably, those safeties that know that nothing's being pushed down the field, they'll just inherently creep up closer to line of scrimmage. And so if you don't do something to loosen up that box, man, it's going to be a long day, and last Sunday was.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor was the guy. I mean, he had a good day on the ground, but there was too much Jonathan Taylor, like you said, and they've got to spread that around because otherwise, what else is the defense going to focus on? They've got everything stopped, and they couldn't get the deep passing game going. Was that more of a because of offensive line protection breakdowns? Where was that, you think, Matt?
Yeah, offensive line wise, it certainly it was not an ideal day. 3 sacks on Carson Wentz. Really, in reality, it was 4 because they had 1 on a 2-point conversion that didn't go down in the box score. 10 total pressures. That's way higher than what the Colts are accustomed to or what they've set up for themselves and their expectations. Because if you go back to last year, the Colts allowed 3 sacks, at least 3 sacks in a game just twice all season. Now, I know Phillip Rivers got rid of the football very, very quickly, and so Carson Wentz and Rivers, they're 2 different quarterbacks. Their play style differs. But it's not as if, in my opinion, that Wentz was holding onto the ball and was being indecisive. It came from all different areas. It came from the left side. It came from the right side. A really sturdy player like Braden Smith had a difficult day against Darrell Taylor. It came from up the middle at times. So that Colts offensive line that had been so good in the previous 3 years under Frank Reich, they had allowed the fewest sacks in the league, third fewest, I should say, in the league since 2018 when Frank got here. It just did not look anything like that. And so I don't know if that's, you could, no excuses, obviously, but I don't know if that's because you just didn't have a lot of continuity time between the offensive line and Wentz during training camp and the preseason because of a lot of injuries. Nelson was out, Kelly was out, Smith was out at times. Obviously, Wentz missed a boatload of time in the preseason. So I don't know if that was part of it, but whatever it is, now that they have a game under their belt, they've got to figure that out because they cannot win with that type of execution up front.
And one of the things that I noticed about this game, Matt, is you look at the final score in 28-16, and you might think, well, the Indianapolis's defense wasn't great, but it didn't cost them the game. They needed more production offensively. But then you go through the statistics and you look, Russell Wilson had 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and completed all but 5 of his passes. They averaged over 5 yards per carry in that game. And they only had the ball for, I think, 25 minutes in that contest. What did you see from the Colts defensively in that week 1? Because like I said, 28 points, it's not a ton of points, but when you look at the box score, the Colts had trouble keeping the Seahawks in check, it seemed like.
No, and they allowed big plays, and they allowed Russell Wilson to be incredibly efficient, and the theme of last year reared its ugly head again this year, where anytime the Colts played an elite or an above-average quarterback, they had a difficult time slowing them down. I mean, you're talking about 78% completion percentage. Anytime the Colts play a really good quarterback, that number is always usually pretty high. So they got to get that figured out. But more so, the discrepancy between first-half defense and second-half defense. It was a theme all of last year. If you go back and look at the numbers from a year ago, the Colts were 27th in total defense in the first half of games and 4th in total defense in the second half of games last year. And, you look at the scoring as well. The Colts allowed 27 touchdowns in the first half of games last season, only 13 in the second half of games. And it played out again on Sunday where the Colts gave up, what I think it was like 254 in the first half, and then only 127 in the second half. So whatever's happening at halftime, it's a catch-22. It's great that you're making adjustments, but to start games, where's the edge? Where's the attention to detail? Where's the focus? Matt Eberflus this week talked about that, where it's just you have to be more consistent, and you do have to play with a little bit more chip on your shoulder to start a game. And during the week, what they do is they focus on first and second quarter stuff earlier in the week, and then focus on second half stuff, third and fourth quarter stuff later in the week. So I don't know if it's something where, on a Sunday, the focus in practice where they're focusing on the third and fourth quarter things that's more fresh in their mind because they practiced it later in the week. Whatever the reason is, they've got to get that honed in because you got to play a full 60 minutes in the NFL, especially coming up on Sunday against a Rams team that was number 1 in total defense last year. You can't get behind this team. It's going to be tough sledding if you get in a hole early. The Rams gave up only 66 first quarter points all of last season. right? So they're really good at making their own adjustments at halftime under Sean McVay because they are 38-0, 38-0 under Sean McVay since 2017 when they have a lead at halftime. So you have to get off to a good start in this game.
Yeah, and the Rams, they're going to try to do it through the air. Especially they got good at that last week when Chicago tried to stop their running game. So they were pretty proficient through the air, which is an area where Seattle was able to attack the Colts. And so I'm sure that there's some concern there that that's what they're going to have to stop. But the secondary, they're going to have to make great improvements between the opening game and this game because I'm not saying the Rams are more prolific in a passing game, but they're just as good as what they saw in Seattle last week.
No, there's no question about it. I mean, they have Matthew Stafford now, and they think that's, the missing piece. Jared Goff was a really good quarterback, but they think Stafford's at another level. He's a guy that has had a lot of success, statistically speaking, in Detroit, but now he's got some really, really solid weapons around him in Cooper Kupp and Van Jefferson, Deshaun Jackson, and Robert Woods. I mean, these are all really, really good football players. They've got some capable tight ends as well. Sony Michel at running back. So they're a very formidable offense. And again, the way they play, man, they are run and shoot under Sean McVay because they lead the NFL in explosive plays per game since 2017, averaging over 7 of those per game. And that definitely, perks your interest a little bit considering what happened to the Colts last week where they gave up 8 explosive plays to Seattle.
Yeah, and offensively, the dinking and dunking that they tried to, I don't know, was that part strategy and part getting Carson Wentz acclimated into the games instead of, really taking those shots? But it seemed like a strategy that they stuck with, but is probably not one that's going to work against a Rams team that's pretty explosive.
No, I mean, that certainly was not by design. I mean, it was the way that the game was playing out. The way the offensive line was holding up and just coverage-wise what Seattle was doing. So, I mean, it's not by design to throw the football 12 times to running backs and only have your longest play from scrimmage be 24 yards. So it wasn't that was talked about a little bit this week on Sports Talk Radio up here is the game plan was conservative by design to get Carson Wentz up to speed and get his confidence going and have him not turn the football over. The NFL, man, it's not a developmental league. These games matter, and the magnitude of all of them really play into the end result when you talk about are you a playoff team or not. So you either are out there and you can play or you can't, and Carson Wentz could play last week, and so they've got to get that figured out where they're pushing the football down the field and get more chunk plays.
Are you heading to L.A.? Or you have to stay home yet?
The game is here.
Oh, the game's in Indianapolis. All right, so for some reason I was thinking it was on the road. All right, well, that's perfect, man. A great chance for Indianapolis fans to see. When's the last time they played the Rams at home?
2013.
Wow, been a minute. That was my team growing up. Was the L.A. Rams, but when they moved to St. Louis, I dumped them. I don't know what it was. I swear, I dumped them like an ex-girlfriend. I was a big LA Rams fan growing up. All the way back to Pat Hayden and Eric Dickerson and Jack Ham and all those guys. But they moved to St. Louis. I was just done with it. I'm like, nope. If I'm going to have a team here, it's the Colts, man. So it's been the Colts since then. But Matt, I can't thank you enough, brother. I hope you have a great week and another great broadcast. How was it getting back onto the bike last week?
Oh, it was great. Yeah, that's a good analogy. It was like riding a bike. I thought the crowd was great, and they're going to be back for more. And, Frank Reich talked about that this week. The Colts have to start putting good performances together in front of the home crowd. He said the home crowd was great. They deserve a win, and the sense of urgency this week has to be pretty high. Obviously, you don't want to start 0-2. Only 11% of teams that start 0-2 go on to make the playoffs. But more so than that, after this week, we all know what comes up next. It's 3 straight on the road against some really, really good football teams. So this is a huge game in terms of momentum and just recalibrating the expectations and the measurables for this team.
Next week, I want to talk about the Peyton and Eli broadcast. I watched that. I enjoyed it, but I know you got to get going, so we'll let you do that, man. Have a great weekend, a great preparation, and a great game, Matt. Looking forward to it, brother.
All right, guys. Be well. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, joining us here on Indiana Sports Speeds. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, like literally from the Golf Point at Eagle or Golf Club at Eagle Point. They have also, the pro has told me, they will beat or match anyone's price on equipment. So step into the Golf Pro shop and he'll get you taken care of for that. We've got a lot more coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for...
All right, so John, this segment's open. 10, 20, and 20, 40 are open, right?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to talk about the Big Ten. I may get these guys, other guys in and spend the last two segments talking about the Big Ten games this week.
That sounds good.
All right, I'm putting myself on mute here really quick.
Okay.
Yes. Where are they? They're right here. Where are we going to go? Shane's going to put them out as soon as he's done vacuuming and cleaning up the clubhouse. Okay. Here. They're wow. Where'd Colin go? I believe he's out on the golf course. So.
Yeah, he's out.
You want him?
Yeah,
he's going to do a segment. Yeah. This one will go down in there. This one will go down in there.
I got to.
I mean, he's got to start getting Matt Taylor out on time. We also got a minute left. I wonder if he'll be back from this break on time.
We'll find out, won't we?
We will find out. If he hasn't come back, we'll just start off talking about, heck, well, he wants to save the Big Ten games for later, doesn't he?
He can still talk about Indiana, Cincinnati.
Yeah, I guess. We'll just get that going, because I'm sure.
Since he going
to talk with some of the golf with the Eagle Point people is what I think he's trying to do. But
what toboggan?
Oh, you coming, Jim?
$5.99. You have penny? What toboggan?
Yeah.
All right, we'll talk about some of the, I don't know, something else right now. He's not going to be available till later, but
okay.
Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Remax Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, literally from the Golf Club at Eagle Point today, as we are participating in and helping sponsor the first annual Dog Shack Dave. There you go. See it back there. If you ever played at Eagle Point, there was literally, you can almost see it out there. There's a whole tent is right across there, but his Dog Shack sat there and sold hot dogs and kept us all laughing. And he was a great dude, Dave Pratt. So celebrating his life today, but getting back to the world of sports, I was going to talk about a few Recruiting tips. Indiana staff has been busy all week. Mike Woodson and assistants Kenya Hunter and Yasir Roman were in to see 2023 Centerville High School, Ohio point guard Gabe Cups. He told Alec Lasley from thehoosier.com. Then the entire staff, all four coaches went down to see 2023 Louisville Male High School Caleb Glenn. I'm telling you, Indiana's getting him. And that would be a coup, not because he's the top player in the country. He's not, but he's a 4-star. He's a great player. But getting a kid out of Louisville, a top-level player out of Louisville's backyard, out of Kentucky's side yard, that just doesn't happen. And I think that because of the position that Louisville has put themselves in, with constantly being at odds with the NCAA, with whatever, that Chris Mack is a good coach, but he doesn't have a track record of sending people to the NBA. He doesn't have a track record of being involved with the NBA. Mike Woodson does. So I think because of that, I think that I've been saying this, I think he will end up at Indiana. Glenn has nailed his recruitment to 4 programs, Indiana, Louisville, Texas A&M, and Tennessee. And to me, it's a 2-horse race. It's Louisville and Indiana. Both players have been on campus unofficially. Glenn is expected back for Hoosier hysteria. So, and that is the first. What do you think that environment's going to be like? The first time fans have been allowed back into Assembly Hall? Are you kidding me? Not only that, they're not coming back for an Archie Miller team. They're coming back for a whole new team with a whole new outlook, a whole new staff, all this with all new expectations. So Hoosier hysteria should be kind of off the chains. But I think that the recruiting is going fine for Indiana. They're going to end up doing quite well. And like I said, getting that kid from Louisville is going to be a coup. I just things are going well for him. What else is going on in your world, man?
Well, here's something we can talk about, too. I don't know if you saw this last night, but this was from John Rothstein, who tweeted out that the NCAA has approved that starting on September 20th, 2 non-coaching staff members in men's and women's basketball can engage in on-court practice activity during the 2021-22 season. No more than 4 coaches and non-coaching staff members combined may give instruction. But you know what that also kind of tells me is who's on that staff at Indiana. That
Admata.
Exactly. That's huge news for Indiana, in my opinion.
Also, the I'm missing his name, but didn't Woodson actually put on staff the gentleman that he is known for, that has been involved in basketball for like 60, 70 years?
Yeah, I know who you're talking.
I'm drawing a blank on the name there.
Yeah.
But and not only that, but you can also bring in people like Larry Brown. Now, Larry Brown would probably be more of a consultant to those guys. But you can have, back when Calbert Cheney was director of player ops or whatever his actual title was, he could not engage in any training.
Right.
Now, I wonder if they have to be permanent staff members or can they be temporary staff members? Could you put someone like Todd Leary on retainer? Hey, I'm coming as a shooting coach. Whatever, as long as the numbers are 4 and below. I don't know that's going to be interesting to find out what all you can do with that. But I was thinking yesterday how, look at Reggie Bush. Reggie Bush lost his Heisman because he or his family accepted some money that does not compare in comparison to money that these guys are pulling in now. Should Reggie Bush get his Heisman back?
Yep.
I mean, everybody and Indiana fans, before you answer that question, listen, remember this. Every time somebody brings up Kelvin Sampson and Indiana getting in trouble for the rule that he broke of the goofy ass phone call rule that was so stupid that they changed it the next year. Well, if that's Indiana fans sure like to mention that rule was changed the next year because it was so dumb. Well, this rule was changed as well. I think Reggie Bush should get his Heisman back.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, the list of dumb things goes on and on. The problem for Indiana, and the same thing goes for Ohio State. I mean, ultimately, the tattoo gate or whatever you want to call it, that eventually brought Urban Meyer to Ohio State, so it paid off, I guess. But to me, the problem for Indiana is there's no way for the NCAA to fix it, right? There's no way the NCAA can't go back and undo that penalty and go back in time. So that's the issue there. With Reggie Bush, this is a simple fix. Just say, yeah, we'll reinstate your statistics. Who cares at this point? I mean, we all remember what Reggie Bush did on the field. It wasn't like he was taking performance-enhancing drugs. It wasn't like he was doing something that allowed his performance
getting arrested
on the field.
He wasn't point shaving.
Right. Yeah, this isn't setting your fan. It doesn't matter where he would have played. He would have excelled no matter where he was. He still had to go out there and compete. He still had to do those things with his legs, and he had to get into the end zone. He had to, break off tackles and these big rushes and everything. Money doesn't put that in that. Money does not put you in that position. So to me, just reinstate it. This is an easy fix. And I understand the frustration from the side of Indiana fans, from Ohio State fans. But the issue is with the sanctions that they imposed at the time, you can't really go back and fix it. I mean, everything is good now. So that's I understand why people are frustrated by it. But man, it's been a decade. More than a decade. Let's get this thing back and make it right with him.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sticky wicket in a different situation, but we've gone in 1 year from basically. Think back to Steve Alford. Steve Alford was suspended for a game against Kentucky because he posed. Because his picture was used for a sorority charity calendar. He got nothing. He did nothing. I mean, other than pose for a picture. A sorority charity calendar. That's how idiotic the NCAA has been. How moronic. And so now, this is how moronic they are. We go from 0 to 1,000. Because they have no ability, they have no ability to do anything. So it's like we force you to do nothing, or we just do everything because we're going to do nothing in the middle, and that's what it is. I mean, it is. They just held it. They just held it. The athletes' heads underwater basically for all this time until now. And they're like, "Hey, you can't do that." Oh, I'm sorry. Hey, come on up. Hey, let me help you up. And it's. Ridiculous. I mean,
we've talked about it on this show before. The problem is if you, I don't understand what the problem is. If you go through the yearbook, the rule book every year, and just say, okay, this rule no longer applies. Okay, we need to amend this rule. If you're changing with the times, then we wouldn't have had to see all this mass change in one summer. But the NCAA refused to deal with this. Instead, they were like, you know what? I bet the same rules that applied in 1961 will still apply in 2021. That's not the case, obviously. The inability to change with the times, the reluctance to grow and make this better for everybody involved, coaches, student athletes, parents, whoever, fans, whoever's involved, the complete lack of ability to do that is falls on the leadership. It falls on people not really caring. And again, that's why we've seen such drastic changes in one summer. If we would have seen this thing grow throughout time, we wouldn't be in this position. We wouldn't be in this situation. I'm not saying it's a bad situation. I'm just saying everything has had to change at once because of the NCAA's basically incompetence to change with the times.
Yeah, I agree, but that was always the issue with the NCAA. They were never like that. That was the problem. I mean, there was the Indiana football player, was it 4 or 5 years ago, that was ruled ineligible days before the season because of a clerical error?
Yes. Oh, yeah.
How's that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. See, to me, that's not possible. To me, that is the kid didn't do anything. The kid went to school. The kid got his grades. He did what he's supposed to do. There is no way, to me, there's no way it should be possible for a clerical error to be able to do that. That is the most asinine thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah, and I think it was like an advisor or something, that it was just like a mix-up in classes or something like that. And
had nothing to do with the student at all. The student had nothing to do with it.
He had nothing to do with it. It wasn't his fault. And let me tell you too, that whoever was in that position, that's not their fault either. Before I started in this business, I was in academic advising at Ivy Tech in Indiana, and stuff changes all the time. It constantly is changing. And so you're basically telling your administration, hey, when it comes to student athletes, you can't make a single mistake. And sometimes those things are able to be fixed within a 48-hour period. And I believe that even in that situation, I don't know, but I think it was resolved and fixed relatively quickly. But look, and I'll go back to a story here too. When I played Division III tennis, okay, so this is nothing close to what we're talking about here. But one of my teammates dropped a class and then picked up another class. He fell below for 10 seconds. He fell below the required limit it was to be in a competitive sport. I think it was 10 credit hours or something at the time. He fell below that because she dropped him from the class first and then added him to another class. He was ineligible for the remainder of the season because he was not at the certain credit hour for 10 seconds. I'm not making that up. That's how asinine some of this stuff is.
I believe it, because it's easier for them to do nothing no matter what. Well, that was their mantra. It was easier for them to do nothing no matter what the cost to others than for them to do something that they would have to worry about having to answer that same question again in a different way.
Right.
Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. They instead of finding a resolution, or instead of trying to solve something, they say, nope, you broke the rules. This is the penalty. Instead of
so, what is the future of the NCAA? Why are they here, other than running the largest basketball tournament that makes buku amounts of money that they take a good share of? But other than that, what the hell's they're an entity. They're a company. They're not. I mean, it's basically an outside agency hired by the universities. Am I wrong? I mean, that's basically the setup, right?
I mean, I don't know structurally how it is. Based on what we've talked about, based on what we've seen, I think so. I mean, the people that put Mark Emmert in charge are, basically because he's making these schools a lot of money. So he basically works for them. We give him a lot of grief and a lot of crap, but there are people who enable him to be able to do this kind of stuff. So, I mean, eventually this is all going to come crumbling down. The Power 5 schools, or whatever's going to be left when Texas and Oklahoma go over to the SEC and all this conference realignment happens again, I think you're going to see the NCAA in a much less substantial role. And you're going to see basically those 5 conferences, or maybe it's all 10 of the FBS conferences, or however many there are when you throw in basketball. It may be all of those conferences working together to create their own organization or own working group, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm guessing the NCAA's days are numbered in terms of how long they're going to be running the show.
Yep, we got to take a quick break. We got more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Chris Denari is going to join us, and we've got more listening to us. We're coming to you from the golf club at Eagle Point today as we are preparing for the Dog Shack Dave Scramble, the first ever. And Eagle Point will match or beat anyone's price on golf equipment. So if you're looking for that, it's a place to go. Hey, we've got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat. Brought to you by the great folks Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Realty. Make sure if you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, reach out to Cheryl Sizemore. You can find her, Cheryl, at IndyHomePros.com. pretty easy. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com if you're looking for a home in the Indy area, and that's hard to find. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Hey, Hoosier fans.
We match?
We got the same colors on.
Oh, I can promise you, if you wear yellow, if you wear yellow, you probably got a 50-50 shot of matching Dustin.
Yeah.
That is true. I think I have that exact same shirt. Is that the short sleeve?
Yeah, short sleeve.
Yep.
Yeah. I've got that long sleeve too. Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah. I'm half asleep. I've been battling technology. With the positive is I just got hooked up yesterday with fiber, AT&T fiber.
Oh, baby.
So
that changes your life right there.
Oh man, I mean, it's amazing inside, but I use a Linksys system, just to get a signal out to my wife she shed so she can run YouTube TV. So I was on a chat with Linksys last night. So long story short, I have an Apple airport time capsule. And that's, I use that to back up my computer. And I also had my own network on it. So I had an AT&T network and this Apple network. And ironically, the Apple network, that modem really was better than the old AT&T one. Well, of course, this new AT&T one with fiber is lightning. So switching everything over, oh my God, I mean, it was a nightmare. I'm trying to play IT boy,
Hey, but that fiber.
Now I know why IT people get paid.
Yep.
Yeah. And then that fiber, man, it doesn't go out.
No,
it's in the ground.
Literally, they've been doing stuff along our street and all that. So I knew it was coming. And literally, I got a text 2 days ago, and I texted right in, called AT&T. I've been a long time UVerse client. So they were out yesterday. The guy told me I was the first one to call. And so they had trucks here and, but I had the AT&T 50, which was still pretty good. I now have 1,000.
Holy crap.
Is that like something bits per minute or something?
I have 1,000. It's a 1 gigabyte.
That's crazy, man.
So, but you do notice it like in the house, like if you're on your iPad and let's say I go from ESPN to the Indianapolis Star, it doesn't buffer, it doesn't do anything. It just goes right to it. I mean, so, but it's
here we go. Sorry to interrupt, but we're coming back in, Chris.
Yeah.
The right foods to go with. Plan a day on the links at Eagle Point in Bloomington, then stay for dinner at Sam's Clubhouse. Sam's Restaurants, professionals in the art of food and drink. This segment is brought to you by Sam's Family of Restaurants. Fresh, local, family. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It is Thursday. That means the great Chris Denari joins us from the Pacers. Anything new going on, Chris? Got you. I see you're now. You are. Besides, you are now leading the Tour de France. We have a new leader
in the yellow. Yeah, that's right. All the players are in. I did an interview with Assistant General Manager Kelly Krauskopf yesterday, and the players have come in. I think we talked about it last week on their own. Training camp does not start until the 28th. Media day is the 27th. But all the players are in. They wanted to get about a 2-week head start, in playing pickup and all those things that you do as a player. I think the negatives are within the last week. We talked about TJ Warren, I think, last week, that his rehab maybe not progressing as well as you'd like. We'll just have to wait and see. But then the news of Edmund Sumner tearing his Achilles, working out in the Ascension St. Vincent Center last week, playing with a lot of the young guys. He had such a good year last year. Could be your third point guard if you needed it. probably one of the most athletic players on the Pacers team. And so to not have him is going to hurt. Now, this team, I believe, and Dustin and I, we've talked about it over the year. I think there is significant depth here. I do think with the change in coach with Rick Carlisle, that's going to be a big positive. But you hate to start losing guys early. And so Edmond will definitely be a loss just based on what I thought he accomplished last year.
And to your point, it's never good to see players get injured. You never want to see them on the sideline. You never want to see them have their career affected in that way. But if you're going to put a silver lining on it, is it better almost that it happens this early in the season for some of those other guys because they know that they're probably going to have an increased role, and they're going to have to work maybe even a little bit harder, knowing that they have to replace some of these guys because we don't know when TJ Warren's coming back and we don't know when Edmond Sumner is coming back. So to me, again, I hate to say it that way, but in some regard, I think it gives some of these other players a sense of urgency maybe.
Yeah, and I think, instead of it happening a month or two into the season, you adapt right now. And right. So those young guys know right now probably creates even more opportunity. And I think he was going to get a lot of opportunity in Chris Duarte, the rookie out of Oregon. But if it happens in December, you've got to do things on the fly as a coaching staff to make adjustments because you've got 3 to 4 games a week. As you said, Dustin, there's really not a positive, but by it happening now from a coaching staff perspective, you can begin to address that. From a front office perspective, they can make some decisions going into training camp. What do they want to do with the roster? Now, you can't replace Edmond. He counts. The only way you can add a player is with an injury exemption if you have a number of players get hurt. And, I mean, right now you still have TJ Warren out. So, and for Edmond, I mean, the Achilles injury, I mean, that's a year, right? We've seen Kevin Durant miss an entire year. Klay Thompson, after an ACL and an Achilles, has missed 2 years, and they still don't know if he'll be ready on opening night in about a month. So we'll just have to wait and see. But I do like this Pacers team's depth, but they will definitely have to make some adjustments because I know that they were counting on Edmond Sumner in some type of role this year.
And so trade potential. I know that that's hard to throw guesses at, but there is definitely the potential of some guys moving around here. Maybe some that fans would rather see stay, but I don't know what they're going to do. It's just strictly a guess, but something has to be done, obviously, to fill in the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, from a roster standpoint, they pretty much are locked into the 15 and then the two-way players. Now, there's one that does not have a guaranteed contract, and they keep pushing back the date, and that's for Keelan Martin, the former Butler player. His guarantee date for the year, I think, is the opening week of the season. So in reality, the Pacers have 14 guaranteed contracts. They have two-way players, which you can have. That's the max. And then they have Keelan, who they like, and I thought played well last year. And with the injuries to TJ Warren and to Edmond Sumner, he could become a very valuable player for the Pacers. So the question is, Jim, very rarely, though, once camp starts and teams are putting their rosters together, you don't necessarily see trades made at that point. You see maybe trades made by teams like the Pacers did with the Oladipo-Levert deal, about a month into the season. And then, of course, a lot of people target the trade deadline in March. They like to see how their season goes before they're a buyer or a seller. So we'll just have to wait and see because there's still, there's still a lot of talk out there in the NBA. Is Ben Simmons going to play in Philadelphia? He has said he's not interested in that. He's
demanded a trade, and that's one of the names that I've seen mentioned. That I know it's just thrown out there, but he has demanded a trade. And although I'm like, he hasn't impressed me a lot with some things. I don't know he's a complete player yet.
Well, the one thing that he has not been able to do is shoot the ball, particularly from the perimeter. And at some point, I don't think you have to be a great three-point shooter, but you can't be a hesitant shooter, especially in late game situations. The other player that, again, has come up in the last couple of days as far as they're going to try to work out a trade. They have not talked a buyout, but that's with John Wall in Houston. I mean, he's got $90 million over the next 2 years. I don't know how they're going to trade him, but they are trying to do what Oklahoma City did last year, and that's a total rebuild, go totally young. So to play John Wall big minutes doesn't really help them. But they may just sit him on the sideline like Oklahoma City did with Al Horford last year. So we'll get more answers across the league when camps open up in a couple of weeks. But, I just think the disappointing thing for the Pacers is not to have Edmund Sumner. I think TJ Warren will be back at some point. We just don't know when, and we don't know how that rehab is going. But I just hate to see a young man like Edmund Sumner, who has fought so many injuries over the years. He was a second-round draft pick out of Xavier because of injuries. And so when he's been healthy, and he's been pretty good.
And one of the things and one of the reasons I don't expect to see a lot of change is I go back to Rick Carlisle in his introductory press conference when he got the job and talking about, I want to adapt a system to my players and him comparing this job to, some of the teams in Detroit before they went on to win a championship and kind of having that structure and that foundation there. So to me, you never say never, but at the same time, I feel like Rick Carlisle and this front office want to give this group a shot because we've talked about, again, we probably sound like broken records. The foundation and the core of this team, I think, is really good. They just weren't maybe used correctly, and their strengths were not used to their advantage. So I think with Rick Carlisle, an NBA championship coach, a guy who's been in Indiana, who connects well with his players, I don't see a lot of change or any change, at least through the early portion of this season, because Rick Carlisle knows how to play to his players' strengths.
Yeah, and look, we all want it to happen now, right? We all want the great success immediately. I mean, and again, I don't discount that with fans. I mean, fans want to see their team win and all those kinds of things. But Rick signed a long-term deal. He's going to be here. He's going to be the person that shapes and molds, along with the front office, the way this team wants to play. So I quite honestly am happy to see this group get a chance because I was talking to Kelly yesterday, Kelly Krauskopf again. And again, we did a presentation on tape for all of the ushers and the concessions people who will be welcoming fans back to Bankers Life Fieldhouse. And Kelly made a good point. She goes, we're sort of looking like last year, like it was a mulligan, right? Jim's getting ready to play golf. A lot of times you're on the tee and you hit that first tee shot and it goes somewhere you don't want it. And luckily you have a mulligan, you get to re-tee it and you hit it straight down the middle. I think that's what the Pacers are thinking last year was. Look, we have a good group. 2 years ago, we won 45 games. We didn't make it out of the first round of the playoffs, but we thought we had a pretty good team. We had the same group last year and we stumbled. That was our mulligan. We're getting another chance to hit it down the middle of the fairway, and we're going to try doing that with the current crew that we have.
I always need a mulligan. Are you kidding me?
You like that mulligan?
I always need a mulligan. Are you kidding me?
What do we call that? Like the first tee, right? If you're in a
breakfast ball, like a breakfast ball, breakfast ball,
right? If you're on the first tee and it's a friendly, I look at it this way, guys. I'm 60 years old now. My competitive days are long gone. If I need 2 breakfast balls to get it started, okay, let's go.
Absolutely. I'm in total agreement, because that kind of sets the tone. And if your first shot just pisses you off, it's kind of hard to play the next 18 holes when you start off like that. So yeah, I agree with you 1,000%.
Yeah. It depends for me if I'm playing with my brother or not, because we still have that competitive nature. So if I'm playing with him, there are we're playing like the PGA Tour professionals out there, even though, we're not nowhere close shooting those scores.
Baloney. He's not cheating.
Well, I'm sure he's cheating. I'm just not looking when it's
I was going
happening.
to say, if you're not cheating, you're not trying.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, Chris, was away from the Pacers, is that the Milwaukee Bucks just hired Lisa Byington to be their television play-by-play.
Oh, yeah.
And people familiar with my line of work in the Big Ten know Lisa. She's done football. She's covered basketball, volleyball, I believe. She's been fantastic for so many years. So to get this opportunity, I was really happy for her. Do you know her personally? And what's that kind of mean for the league? You know, I've always saw the league as the NBA, that is, as being kind of at the forefront of some of these, giving women and opportunities in these fields. And just kind of what's that mean as a broadcaster and for the NBA?
Yeah, I'm really excited for Lisa. Yes, I know Lisa. I've worked with her at the Big Ten Network. She
Tell her I have a crush on her.
Yeah, she was on sidelines for a long time. Ironically, her first football games play-by-play, she did a game back in 2017, and then she filled in for me. Unfortunately, 4 years ago, my dad passed away. I was set to do an IU game. She filled in for me doing the play-by-play. And, I mean, she has taken off on BTN, doing football, doing basketball. She was the TV voice of the Chicago Sky and the WNBA. She did the NCAA tournament this year. I mean, she's uber talented. And I think what's great about what the NBA is doing, they are just looking at people with talent, right? Yeah. Becky Hammond, I believe, will be a head coach in the NBA. She is uber talented, very smart, very basketball savvy. Kelly Krauskopf made the switch from the WNBA to the NBA. She is very talented, great respect within our organization. So I couldn't be happier for Lisa. I thought it was a great hire. We had heard through the grapevine that we thought that might happen. I'm sure you'll still see her do some BTN football. It'll be hard for her to do basketball, just because she'll be doing, 75 Bucks games. But I couldn't be happier for her. She is so talented. And I think it's just great that the NBA is sort of the first sports franchise, pro sports franchise, to put a woman, as the number one face on TV of the franchise. More will come, but I'm really happy for Lisa.
I think she does a great job.
She's responsible for, two of my favorite kind of catchphrases, or she said this, but one of them is obviously Quinn smothered chicken. That gets me all fired up. But she said one time, if people are familiar with Purdue, Tommy Luce was a guy who would only get in, the last 2 minutes of the game in a lopsided affair.
Mascot.
And she said, she made the comment, and here comes the human victory cigar. And that was one of the best lines I think I've ever heard. Yeah. And she's responsible for it. So she's done a great job. I remember, I think her first Big Ten football game was a Northwestern non-conference game.
Yes.
And it was awesome to see. And she's done a phenomenal job. And it was just awesome to see her get the opportunity, having covered the Big Ten and being tuned into Big Ten every week, whether it's football or basketball. I know she's very deserving and very worthy of that opportunity.
Yeah, I look forward to meeting her. I haven't had that opportunity, so I hope to get that chance. Chris, what else do you have coming up, man?
Well, I will not be with you next week because I will be on vacation, a little 4 or 5 day trip with my wife before the season starts. But in 2 weeks, when I rejoin you on a Thursday, training camp will be underway. So I'll at least have some information to share. We have the opportunity to go to practice.
When's media day for the Pacers?
Media day is a week from Monday. It's the 27th. So, it's about
maybe we'll try to get up for that.
Our first preseason games we'll do on Valley Sports Indiana will be, I believe, October 13th and 15th. And then the regular season starts the next week. So
we'll look forward to it, man.
Yeah, it's almost here. I mean, it's a fun time to get ready for basketball. I enjoy my Saturdays and Sundays watching a lot of college football and the NFL. Looking forward to, in a couple of weeks, the Ryder Cup, speaking about golf.
Where is the Ryder Cup this year?
It's at Whistling Straits, Wisconsin.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
Yep.
It's a good one. All right, brother. We look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks then, man. Enjoy a little vacay.
All right. Sounds good, guys. See you guys.
Thank you so much, Chris Denari from the Indiana Pacers, joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, literally at the Golf Club at Eagle Point. Back right after this with Colin O'Neill from Cohouton O'Neill and plenty more. Finish up.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Whether you're looking for a...
So is this guy joining you with you in person, I assume? Oh, he can't hear me.
Damn. Oh, boy. I wanted to get the Dog Shack date behind me. I thought it was a pretty good backdrop. How you doing, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Slide in. You won't be able to hear them, but you don't need to hear the producer or anything.
Well, he'll need to hear Dustin if Dustin's talking to him.
Well, yeah, but...
Or we can just let Dustin know ahead of time that he won't be able to hear Dustin.
Yeah. Dustin can take a break if he wants.
That's true. I can let him know. I don't know where he went right now, but when he comes back, I'll let him know.
Just, you can take him out of the screen.
I will. I'll need to let him know first, so when he gets back. If he gets back to start.
What all do you all have, Colin? Oh. Oh, shoot. All right.
Hey, Dustin.
I'm going to have to get some.
If you
something
want
from that.
Do an interview.
Bob Kravitz. Yeah.
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
I can now.
All the time.
Okay.
On my show every week.
So during this segment, you can take a break if you want. I'm going to remove your screen.
He's always there.
This
All
guy.
right, I'm going to mute myself then.
That's totally fine.
Y'all getting a lot of pub from him because we talk about that all the time. I didn't realize it was yours. Where's Prestwick?
Oh, take that out, by the way. We're no longer there. We just resigned June 30th.
Where's Elwood?
Elwood, north of Noblesville.
Noblesville?
North of Noblesville.
I'm just curious.
Mystic Hills is in the Culver area up near Lake Mexico.
Oh. Oh, that's Mystic Hills was?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. I wrote the wrong one. What about Harrods and Hills?
Harrison Hills is in Attica, half hour from Lafayette.
And Woodwind?
Westfield.
Oh.
All right, we got 20 seconds, Jim.
Remember that? PC names.
Which one?
All right, bring
What
us.
was it?
For just $170 a month. Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by Aurora Specialty Sleep Clinic. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here on this Thursday from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, live from Golf Club at Eagle Point, actually, as we are preparing for the first annual Dog Shack Dave Pratt Scramble. With me right now, Colin O'Neill, Vice President Operations for Cohouton O'Neill, who managed this and many other golf courses. As a matter of fact, I did not realize until now that Prairie View is one of those, and our good friend Bob Kravitz, who's with us each Wednesday, is a frequent visitor at Prairie View.
He sure is. We love Bob.
Yeah, how's he shoot up there? Because I think he lies to us a lot.
I think he's a pretty honest golfer. I think he's probably in the high teens handicap. Yeah. He can beat it around pretty good.
Yeah, I'm kidding. First of all, today, this event, going into putting a scramble on like this is a lot of work. Mm-hmm. I know, because I'm not doing it, thank God. But I see everybody and what all's going on. How many golfers are going to be here today? Like 104, 5, something like that?
There's actually there's a few teams that signed up this past week, so we'll have 30 teams today. 120 golfers. About 20 dinner tickets have been sold on top of that. We have plenty of volunteers helping out today. So all in all, at dinner, we'll have a little over 150, which is remarkable for a golf outing that's in its first year. The LLC board approached the management group early this year about hosting a golf outing that would benefit not only the club, but a charity organization in the name of Dave Pratt. And so we reached out to his wife, Jeannie, and kind of started working together hand in hand and picked a date and started reaching out to people to support the outing in regards to hole sponsorships, dinner sponsorships, beverage cart sponsorships. And then we have a silent auction this evening that looks to raise probably $12,000 to $15,000 additional dollars that will be split between the club and the organization that Jeannie has selected, which is IU Athletics.
So supporting IU Athletics, of course, Dave was a gigantic Indiana fan. I had the opportunity. I got to ride down to the Gator Bowl 2 years ago with him. But, yeah, he probably – I don't know how good that was for him because I'm always giving him my takes and this and that. And he is just a fan, pure and pure. And I'm like, I'm not. If it's something going on, I'll tell you. But yeah, he was a great guy. And I know you weren't here long enough or forever because he's been here. How do we know how long he was actually doing that?
I've been told it's about 20 years.
Holy cow.
Just before you approached the 10th tee, he had a little dog shack, a little hut that was –
the sign actually came from it.
Right there, yeah. It was painted in red and white, IU, full on, and he was a beloved figure here at the club, and we're thrilled to have today and have great weather and have great people out here to celebrate Dave and his family.
Well, I think the outpouring is part of is a respect of him, and everybody just appreciated him so much. I love going by. I would come up, if I wasn't playing, I would come up and get lunch sometimes because I'm like, hey, that's a great deal. A big old fat ass hot dog and a drink and some chips, and you talk to Dave. So it was a good fun. But you guys have made a lot of changes to this golf course. I'll tell you, I've been playing on it for 3 years, and it's in the best shape that it's been in. I can tell you that for a fact. It looks great.
Well, thank you, Jim. We came on board at the beginning of 2020. Obviously, 2020 was a strange year. It actually was beneficial to the golf industry. Activity was up last year. It was the best year since 1997.
The only thing anybody could do.
That's right. It was a socially distant activity. So we took rounds of golf from 2019 to 2020 to roughly 8,600 to over 21,000 rounds of golf.
Wow.
So the activity out here at the club is very good. Us at Coho and O'Neill Golf Management, we partner with Psalms Hospitality Group, and they're the food and beverage vendor here. And they didn't have quite a fair opportunity last year with COVID to really let their, wings spread and show everybody what they can do. So they finally have the opportunity that they've been wishing for, and they're starting to hit their stride. Seeing a lot of new faces here at the club, visiting the restaurant, and coming to events like trivia and concert series and things like that. So our initiative when we came to this club was to instill a lot of new activity into the club, and we've done that, and we'll continue to do that.
I hate to keep throwing my friend Bob Kravitz under the bus, but you mentioned Psalms, and he's a fan of the Psalms Cantina.
Big Lug Canteen.
Big Lug Canteen, where he goes up and has his tea, I'm sure. He's having iced tea. The Psalms, also, like you mentioned, the restaurant here, locations around the Indianapolis area as well. So if you're up and out around there, make sure you stop into one of their locations. But you guys have several golf courses, Prairie View mentioned, but Elwood Golf Course north of Noblesville. Up in Westfield, you've got Woodwind. Up around Culver, there's Mystic Hills, rather. And then Harrison Hills up around Lafayette, it looks like. Yes. And then here, of course, at Eagle Point. So keeps you busy, I would imagine.
We're busy. We're looking for a few more. If there's any golf courses out there that want to,
I can tell you right now, one for Fuzzy Zeller's got his for sale.
I know he does. We talked to them. But anyway, the company started January 1st, 2011. My father, Doc O'Neill, and his business partner, Matt Cohote, wanted to get into the golf management industry. So over those 10 years, we've been affiliated with over 20 golf courses, whether it's consulting work, branding, marketing, or full-on fee-based management is what we do here at the Golf Club at Eagle Point.
I was wondering where the cohort part came from. I had never asked that. I don't know why I hadn't, because it's just a curious question that I didn't pay attention to. But how did you all come to be together?
We're just golfers through and through. My father's been around the game his entire life. He started junior golf camps in 1997, and then he built the Bridgewater Club in Carmel, which is kind of the premier private residential golf community in central Indiana. And then he joined with Matt, like I mentioned, in 2011. The co-hosts, Matt and Jeff, were both Evans scholars. They were caddies at Crooked Stick.
Wow.
And they went to Purdue on a full ride scholarship through the Evans scholarship. So the Coho brothers have known my father, Doc, since the early 80s, I think, because they used to caddy for my dad at Crooked Stick. And they just stayed in touch over the years and wanted to, show interest in the game of golf and give back to the communities that they wanted to do business in. And it's been a really neat venture.
Are you a Purdue grad, by the way?
I went to school up in Lafayette.
Okay. I was asked that because I was thinking about getting Ed Salma. I'm like, I need to get Ed on here too. But I'm like, he's another damn Purdue grad. So you are, as you know, the first Purdue grad I think I've ever had on the show.
Okay.
So there you go. There's that. And then Ed would be the second if we can ever round him up. But Ed actually used to pitch for Purdue. Ed Salm runs Salm's Restaurants, and there's Eddie Jr. But Ed, a great guy as well, but was a pitcher for Purdue. So he's a big dude. I would not have wanted to be standing at the plate if he's throwing some high heat, man, because I bet he could hurl it. But he's been around the golf game for a long time too. Has been involved with golf courses.
Yeah, he started in 1990 at River Glen in Fishers, Indiana, which was just down the street from his first ever restaurant, which he opened in 1986. So he was there as a food and beverage vendor for about 10 years, got his feet wet, saw the ins and outs of daily operations, how to host a golf outing. So when we brought him on in 2018 to be partners with us, it was he was not a novice by any means. He knew what he was doing. So it's been a great partnership.
So for the rest of the year, people, I know that you've got football games. There's a location that you guys rent out that you call a stay and play place, where was it like 10 to 12 people could actually stay in that unit that rents out here at any time, really, but not just weekends. But are there other places that you'll have access to rent?
Well, the Golf Club at Eagle Point used to administer the rental condos and apartments here in the community. We no longer do that. So what you're referring to, the stay and play, is called Birdies, and we administer that through Airbnb. And then we have a boatyard here as well, which we're currently expanding, which will be able to accommodate up to 72 boats and trailers. So we generate some revenue for the club in that regard. And then we have social memberships as well. On an annual basis, we have about 120 social members. That brings in 35, 40K of revenue. And then we have 115 golf members that are platinum status. They receive everything from unlimited green fees and cart fees to range balls to discounts in the golf shop and your handicap fee. That's all included. And then we have a 3-year anniversary membership, which was a heck of a deal. It was priced.
You missed out on that, buddy. You're kicking yourself still, I promise you.
We're priced at $177. You can get golf for 3 years. That does not include your cart, and it has certain playing restrictions, like you can't play as a member before 11 a.m. on weekends. However, it is still an incredible deal, and we brought about 1,500 of those people in here, which had a big impact on that growth that I mentioned earlier, from roughly 9,000 rounds to over 21,000 rounds.
It's one of the things that's not funny, but just the people here. It's a wide range of where they come from. There are a lot of people that live in Florida part of the year and come here. A lot of people live here year round. There are people that come here and play. Ryan Kramer, a fan of the show, I know he lives up north. He's been down here to play. Forrest lives in Georgia, comes up here and plays. Nice. It's amazing the Southern Kentucky. There's guys listeners all over the place, but when they come up visit Indiana, they like to stop in and play, and we appreciate you guys. But that's why I mentioned the Birdies and the place that if you're ever looking. There was a guy that I met that had nothing to do with any of this. He didn't listen to the show or anything. He was driving from San Antonio, and this was like the halfway spot. And and I met him out on the golf course, and we just started playing together. But this was why he stopped here, but he's said, I'm gonna make this my halfway spot, so he's gonna start staying here. So plenty to do. There's a full restaurant here. Like I said, if we didn't mention that, there's a full restaurant, the pro shop, driving range, located full fitness center, located just about 15 minutes south of Bloomington, right off of 37 or 16. Yeah, that's still 37. But anything else that I missed?
I don't think so. We're just ready for a great day. We're about a little under an hour and a half from the shotgun start of the golf outing. Hopefully we'll get around in about 5 hours and have a wonderful dinner event. Jeannie Pratt, Dog Shack Dave's wife, will speak. Bill Jonas, the LLC president, will speak. I will be there. My father, Doc O'Neill, Brian Hollingshead, our PGA professional, has done a wonderful job putting this event together.
He wouldn't come in here and talk to us, though.
Well, and then Chad Moritz, our golf course superintendent. I have to give a shout out to Chad.
Yeah, you
He
do.
has really turned this place around. But, we're golfers. We understand what golfers want from a golf course product. And to have a golf course superintendent like Chad and his staff has been a great partnership. And we look forward to, unveiling our product to a lot of people that may have not seen the product in a couple of years today.
He gets more credit than Brian. I don't know if Brian heard me say that, and I'm just kidding. But no, I can't thank you enough, man. Looking forward to it. It's looking great. The carts are loaded, and I can't wait to get out and play. I'm playing. I'm not going to screw around with sitting at a table and all that, but looking forward to it. Hey, we got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Back with that right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point.
Thanks, sir.
Great.
Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore.
It's amazing what you can do in technology. Now,
It is.
2 years ago, I had to have a bunch of bullshit equipment to do what I'm doing right now to sound how I'm sounding. And now I'm using this. If I have my equipment, it sounds a tick better. If I was doing a full show, I would, with guests all the time, I would lay it out. But it's amazing. The microphone, all about the microphone.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Awesome. All right, we'll see you out there.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for being
Are you
here.
playing?
I am, yeah. With Brian, Andy, and my dad. So.
Oh, Brian. Oh, so y'all got.
I did not mention on that. I've never played this golf course.
You haven't?
Nope. We've been around it about 50 times. We've never played it. So
Really?
Today is the day. I'm excited.
Well, but it doesn't matter to you. You're a good enough golfer that doesn't matter. But I played it 1,000 times. It don't help me a damn bit. So
It's looking good out there. I was out there this morning. So.
I brought my team, baby. I didn't come to participate. I came to win.
There you go.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Okay, let's get back to some. I know they prefer some basketball talk, but there's not. We'll do all basketball tomorrow with a little football. Hey, I need a Cincinnati guy to talk to tomorrow, Dustin.
Alec talked with a guy from Bearcat Report. I don't know who it was, but
okay, well that's who I've reached out to, and they didn't get back to me.
I talked to Alec. I didn't hear from him, but I saw that he had an interview piece with him on Hoosier.
With him, or is that something that he just reposted? That they posted? Because I looked on their site,
Hold
and it
behind
looked like.
Alec would know more than I would. I just know that he talked to somebody in some form or fashion.
I literally never buy golf clubs. So you're probably waiting.
You see this comment, Dustin? And then this one's actually the one I meant to pull up.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. But he doesn't make non-conference picks. I don't have the plaques for non-conference.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
So he's only doing Big Ten games. Plus, I mean, he would be
I thought
sick.
about having my dog do it just for this game, and if she picked Indiana, sending it and tagging you in it, and getting people on Lily's side instead of Biscuit.
There you go. Yep.
But I need to make something if I end up doing that. So we'll see.
We do a lot of gaming too, so I know.
Let me see here. Okay, you need a Cincinnati guy. I know a Cincinnati guy.
There you go. Dustin might be hooking you up, Jim. There we got 15 seconds, and we'll bring us back in.
Because you're my BFF. Banking friends forever.
Right now, get free checking with online banking and all the products of big city banks with hometown service.
With First Federal, you can do that.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington. Here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to this Thursday to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Getting ready for the Dog Shack Dave Pratt Scramble here today. Looking forward to that. Hope you're having a great day. Is that scratchy noise on my end, John? Does this sound good? Or is that just my headphones?
The little static noise you're talking about?
Yeah. I want to make sure that's not me.
But if it may have been there the whole time. It's not very intrusive.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Just making sure. Hope everyone's having a great day. Dustin Schutte with us from Saturday Tradition. Games this weekend, man. First off, the Big Ten, what are you looking forward to?
Everything. I mean, it's a historic weekend for the Big Ten. There's 5 ranked non-conference opponents. You got Penn State against a ranked Auburn team. That should be a fun one. Obviously, we talked about Indiana, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Michigan State, and Miami. And I can't think of the other. Purdue, Notre Dame, that's the other one. So I think that all of these games have potential to be really good games. Defense has kind of been the theme early on in the Big Ten through the first 2 weeks. It's going to be interesting to see. In my opinion, two of the more interesting games that we haven't talked about, and obviously Penn State and Auburn is going to be the headliner. But I think that Purdue, Notre Dame hasn't looked great so far. Purdue looks.
I'm picking Purdue to win that game.
I'm going with Notre Dame in that one because this feels like one of those Notre Dame teams that they don't look great, but they somehow find a way to win games. You go back to that 12-0 season they had when they played in the national championship game. They just kind of found a way to eke out some wins. And I don't know if Purdue's defense is good enough to keep Michael Mayer, their good tight end, in check, but that's going to be a really good game. I won't be shocked if Purdue comes out on top. And then Michigan State, right? We don't know how good Northwestern was. Obviously, Youngstown State is an FCS opponent, but Michigan State has struggled to run the football in the last 3 or 4 seasons. This year, through 2 games, they're averaging almost 300 yards per game on the ground. Peyton Thorne looks really good at the quarterback position. They're going to have a test on the road, hot environment, Hard Rock Stadium, against a good Miami team, or at least we think it's a good Miami team. De'Aaron King can run, he can throw. We're going to find out a lot about a couple different teams, including Indiana, Purdue, and then Michigan State, I think. I don't expect much from that Oklahoma-Nebraska game. And then, obviously, we talked about Penn State. We're going to find out a lot, but I think Penn State is a touchdown favorite. I think they're going to win that game by 2 scores.
I missed one of the 5. Purdue Notre Dame, which I think Purdue wins that game. Michigan State, are they at Miami?
They're at Miami. Yep.
That's a tough row to hoe there. I'm a northern team going down to South Beach. Yeah, you're not going to go down there and win in that heat. So that's Miami for me. I am taking Penn State over Auburn, but there was a 5th, not Indiana, but who was the other one?
Nebraska, Oklahoma.
Oh, okay. Oklahoma kicks Nebraska's aspirin bottle. Oklahoma looked like crap last week, and Nebraska's terrible.
Okay, this is what I'm gonna. This is the scenario I'm gonna throw out. Okay,
but they have Scott Frost has nothing to lose. Is the scary thing.
Well, that's number one. So this game very much could be like you say. It could be Oklahoma 52-10. That's very much a possibility. The thing that I keep coming back to is go back to that Tulane game when Oklahoma, they almost lost that game to a Tulane team. Spencer Rattler is good.
Almost beat Cincinnati last year in the AAC championship, right?
Yep. Yeah. Spencer Rattler, as good as he is erratic at times. Sometimes he just throws the ball. Nebraska's defense is pretty good. They only allowed 10 points the last 2 weeks. Their defense only gave up 21 points in the season opener, and then they had a safety and Illinois had a defensive score. So they're only allowing 10 points per game. They forced 5 turnovers through 3 games, which is pretty good. There's a possibility that if Nebraska's defense and Spencer Rattler is erratic, that they could keep them in that game. Now the question comes then down to offense, and you can't have Adrian Martinez running 17 times and expect to win. You can't have those special teams errors. You got to make your field goals. You can't have these costly turnovers and these ill-timed penalties. That's what's killed Nebraska. If they can play a clean game, I think it can be close. The problem is, in 3 years under Scott Frost, we have not really seen them play a clean game in this type of situation. So part of me says, what's going to change this week? The other part of me says, if they do find a way to play clean, if they find a way to create some turnovers defensively, I'm not saying they're going to win. It just may not be as much of a blowout as people expect.
I would not be surprised by that. I think that Oklahoma needs it to be a little bit better because they had such a poor showing last week. They need to give themselves a better look. And it's all a guessing game. But I think that Scott Frost is hanging on for his life right now. And I don't know, other than going to a bowl game this year, I don't know that anything saves him at Nebraska. Well, so every game is critical for him.
Well, and this is where it gets to me is we talk about the new athletic director. We talk about Trev Alberts and would he be willing to make a change during the season? I don't know. But the thing to me is there's going to be a lot of chatter. If Nebraska comes out and plays, let's say they get beat 35-28. Let's say they don't win the game, but they play close. It's a hard-fought game. I do think that they're going to hit. I don't think that the talk is going to be as much about Scott Frost in the hot seat. You lose by 45 points, there's going to be people wanting his job Saturday night. So that to me is the big difference there. They have to at least be competitive. Otherwise, it's an uphill battle for Scott Frost the rest of the way, because if you get blown out by Oklahoma, Michigan State is a tough team. You still have Wisconsin. You still have Iowa. You still have Ohio State and Michigan. It's, again, I've said this all offseason. It's tough to get to 6 wins. You have to have a good showing here today. You have to have a good showing this weekend to prove that you might be able to compete with some of those teams in the Big Ten.
I agree. Let's see. Indiana, Cincinnati. Let's just go ahead and talk about that game. Indiana, I look at them as a team with a very good defense, very good special teams, based off the showing last week, minus the punting unit, which is still struggling, and an average offense. And until they show me something else, it's an average offense. But Cincinnati is a team that can be handled. Murray State battled them to a 7-7 tie last week at the half by keeping the ball out of Cincinnati's hands and just controlling the ball. So Cincinnati allowed Murray State to do that to them in that first half. Now, they're also a very explosive team because in the second half, they scored 40 daggone points. That is a lot of second half points, man. A lot. Now, a lot of that was based on their defense and maybe some sloppiness by Murray State. But Indiana has to just run a controlling offense and not make mistakes. You cannot throw picks and you cannot fumble the ball. It's that simple because Indiana's defense is far superior to that of Miami of Ohio's or Murray State, the opponents that they've played thus far. And their offense should be superior. But up to this point, we haven't seen that yet. But a manageable offense is really all you need to beat Cincinnati if the defense is doing their job.
Yeah, and I think basically what you're getting at then is this offense can't force anything. It has to play within itself, because what did we see in that Iowa game, especially when they got down early? They got down 2 touchdowns, and it was almost like Michael Penix and the Indiana offense was trying to get everything back in one play. You can't do that. Even if you get down early to Cincinnati, you still have to control the tempo. You still have to run your offense. Don't try to do too much. Yes, you're going to have to take some deep shots to keep Cincinnati on its toes. That's what's going to have to happen. But again, don't try to pick up 20 yards at a time every play. Establish the run. Try to get something going. Mix it up a little bit. I think Indiana got caught up in that Iowa game just trying to do too much. And if that is the case again this week, it's going to be a problem. If they play within themselves, if they don't panic, the thing to me about the Cincinnati game last week, when you talk about a 7-7 tie and then coming out and just steamrolling Murray State, that really speaks to 2 things. Number one, obviously Cincinnati had the superior talent. Number 2, that's coaching. You come out of the second half and you score that many points and you pitch a shutout. That's making adjustments. So this could also be a little bit of a chess match between Luke Fickell and Tom Allen. So it's going to be interesting on a multitude of levels. But I think you're right. I think the defense is more than capable of keeping Indiana in this game. Michael Penix can't make mistakes. The rushing attack has to be relevant. And if you're able to do those 2 things, I think it's going to be a fun fourth quarter game.
Yeah, but we still have to see improvement by Michael Penix. He has got the passes that he's missing. He's not hitting. He's not close. He's misses guys big. Indiana does not have a deep threat ability right now. They haven't shown that. I don't know if they're trying to save that. I doubt that that's the case, but they're going to have to. That's going to have to come into play this week. They are going to have to not only take shots downfield, but I think that they're going to need to succeed with some of those to stretch a Cincinnati defense that is pretty daggone good too.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That they have to do that. But how do you? The problem for Indiana has been. So far, we talk about 2 games. Again, Stephen Carr played really well against Idaho, but when you look at the rushing yards per carry, that's concerning to me. 3.6 is not good against an FCS defense. That's a problem. You have to establish the run in order for Cincinnati to bring them in, to be able to beat them deep. Otherwise, they're just gonna play the pass. They're gonna do the same thing Iowa did, and they're gonna jump in front of routes and make Michael Penix thread the needle. And as we saw, he can't do that 50 times in a game, and Indiana expect to win. So you have to establish the run game. That will set up some play action. That will allow you to stretch the field. It's just something, to me, that's unproven. And that's why I'm nervous for Indiana heading into this game, because you haven't been able to do it. You weren't able to do it the last 2 seasons. We thought with Stephen Carr coming in and with an experienced and a veteran and a talented, deep offensive line that we would see progress in the run game. And so far through 2 games, it was better last week, but again, that's against a bad Idaho team. What do we really know? They have to do something offensively in terms of establishing the run, and then that's going to open up. That's going to allow Michael Penix to go through the air and really stretch this defense out. So it's an interesting game. This is going to be a chess match. I think that both defenses are. We might see a low-scoring game. This could potentially be something like a 20-17 type of game.
Well, if you think about it, both of these teams, both of the offenses Cincinnati's didn't do a lot last week. It was the defense.
Right.
They had 3 interceptions, 2 forced turnovers that was created a majority of those second half scores. Whether they got them or not, they set them up. And it's the same for Indiana. Indiana's defense and special teams has been what has provided all of that. So it could be very much that exact thing without the scoring. So you're right. It could be a low-scoring defensive style game, and whoever makes the least mistakes in this game is probably going to win.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And the other thing too is this is going to be a rock. Well, I mean, we assume it's going to be a raucous environment. How will the crowd? I mean, I think that's going to be.
Well, there's no doubt about that. It's a sold out game. It's been sold out for 2 weeks. Yeah.
It's highly anticipated. It's a big time showdown. It's a chance for Indiana to flex its muscle a little bit. Again,
Cincinnati has not played in an environment like that, have they?
Probably
in this stretch, other than say the bowl game. Yeah.
Right. Last year it was all AAC opponents because of the pandemic, and I don't know about the year before that. Probably the closest, to be quite honest, would be a game against UCF a couple of years ago. And that I don't know what their stadium holds, but this is a Big Ten environment. It's going to feel like a Big Ten environment, and it seemed like a Big Ten environment last week against Idaho. Magnify that by like 10. Because it's going to be a hostile crowd that wants to get this win. You can put that Iowa loss behind you and kind of start moving forward here. And in a defensive game, I think the crowd makes a huge difference because your players feed off that kind of energy. And I think that's going to be a huge factor in this game. But again, it comes down to me, can Indiana's offense make enough plays? So far, I mean, I hate saying so far because we've only seen them play 2 games and really just that one. But through those 2 games, I still have questions about the offense, but I mean, this is going to be a fun game. I don't expect this to be the kind of thing we saw against Iowa. This is going to be a fun, hard-nosed kind of game, and this is one that Indiana fans deserve because after last year, having seen the team go 6-2 and have some exciting finishes, this crowd deserves to see a really fun, energetic game in a Big Ten environment.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and we talked about this earlier. This is the kind of game that Indiana can use to propel their crowds for the rest of the season. I mean, you've got an Ohio State game that's coming up. That'll be sold out, especially if Indiana wins. But maybe more Indiana fans will take up those tickets. And then for the other Big Ten games that you'll have coming in, you've got a Minnesota team that comes in. So this should set Indiana's crowd up for the rest of the season if they're able to win this game.
Yeah, absolutely. Because like we said, Michigan State is coming to town. As you mentioned, you have Ohio State coming to town. So you have some big time games on that schedule. And this is going to, if you're able to win this game, people are going to gobble up tickets. And then you go on the road. And if you're able to beat Western Kentucky on the road, and then you're able to maybe find out a way to eke out a win against Penn State, I mean, people are going to continue to gobble up those tickets. So I keep saying it, this is a great opportunity for them to put Iowa in the rearview mirror, have people talking about, maybe Iowa deserves a lot more credit for what they did against Indiana than we deserve to be bashing Indiana. We don't know. We're going to find out Saturday night, and it's exciting. And again, you have to get this win because if you don't, Michigan State looks really good. Penn State looks really good. Ohio State obviously has a lot of talent, even though they've had some early season struggles. So if you can't get this win, it's an uphill battle at least for the first part of the season through October.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And seeing a sold-out Memorial Stadium for a non-Ohio State-Michigan game is going to be a sight. 47,000 people there last week. The students, man, I have never seen a student section that full and that fast. They were filled up 25 minutes before kickoff. So this week will be even more so. They'll really be in there, although it's an earlier game, noon versus 7:30. The good thing is the fans can't get as tanked up tailgating. They won't have all day long to sit out there and get all tanked up. They can do that afterwards, of course. But, man, looking forward to it. Looking forward to it all. Looking forward to everything here today at the Dog Shack Dave Scramble. We've got so much going on. But this weekend, lots of games to look forward to. What's the biggest game you're looking at this weekend besides the IU game? You got 30 seconds.
I think Penn State Auburn. I think Penn State is right now one of the 2 best teams in the Big Ten. Their defense is outstanding. Their offense is coming along. I think even though they're only a touchdown favorite, Penn State gets a big win by 2 scores, and the Big Ten sends a message to the SEC.
All right, give me your pick on Indiana, Cincinnati.
Well, you're going to hate me because I'm going with Cincinnati in this one.
Hey, man, this is what it's about, brother. It's not. I'm not a. Hey, this is not. I'm not. They're the fans. I was thinking about it. It was tough for me. I just sent my prediction in to Alec for the Hoosier.com's deal this week, and I had to think about it. I really did because this is a game that's going to go either way. It's not going to be a walkover by anyone. But I'm giving Indiana the tip just because of the home crowd. I think Michael Penix has another week of managing the offense. This defense is really good. Cincinnati has not seen a defense like this since they played Georgia, although they played Georgia extremely well. And there's another key. Charlton Warren knows a little bit about Cincinnati from his days at Georgia last year when they played them in the bowl game. Cincinnati played them very close.
Yeah, that's a great point. That is I didn't even think about that, but that's a great point. To me, the Indiana offense has too many questions. I think it's close. I think it's low scoring, but I have to go Cincinnati on this one. And I apologize to all of our listeners, and I'll happily eat crow if I'm wrong.
Don't apologize, man. That's probably if we wanted yes people, that would be a Facebook fanboy show. That ain't what we got here. What do you think the score is going to be? Not exact, but I mean, what type of scoring game do you think it's going to be? I think this is going to be like a 27-17 defensive, lower scoring game. I don't think the defenses are going to be able to score all that. They may take the ball away, but they're not going to be scoring 3 times like they were last week and doing all that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be somewhere 24-17, 24-20, maybe 27-24, something below 30, basically, is what I'm saying. Between 17 and 30 is going to be, if I had to make a final score prediction, I'm going to say 24-20.
Can Minnesota compete without Abraham going forward? That's a great question.
I think they can. Because their offensive line is really good. The problem is they got to get Tanner Morgan going. His consistency has been off. He's only completing 50% of his passes. When they get Chris Ottman-Bell back, I assume that their passing attack is going to be more explosive. They can't run Trey Potts 30 times. He's not Muhammad Ibrahim. He's a good running back, but they have to lessen his carries, get him to about that 22 to 25 mark. And then if they're able to do that, I think Minnesota can probably not win the West, but they can be competitive.
We'll certainly see, man. I cannot thank you guys enough. Big thanks to Dustin, of course. Thanks to Matt Taylor. Thanks to Chris Denari. But most importantly, thanks to you. Oh, and Colin O'Neill. But most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here. And we appreciate you more than you know. We're back tomorrow to do it all again. We'll talk a little bit more about the game coming up, but also lots of basketball recruiting action going on as well. So we'll have that. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Do something nice for somebody. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.